What you're seeing right now is the datamined lobby of the Five Nights at Freddy's DLC, found within the files of the PTB, which will be out once the chapter releases. It seems to be almost finished in the PTB, with just a little bit of polishing left to be done, like this T-posing sable that is stuck in the lobby, but other than that, it is really well made. This also might be the rarest lobby in Dead by Daylight, because soon the anniversary event will happen, which will include its own lobby, so we don't know how many days we will have to see it. The pizzeria is empty in the lobby, but the actual map is filled with Easter eggs, so let me show you. Did you know that if you repair the generator in the main room of the Five Nights at Freddy's pizzeria, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica will do a performance for you, with music too? However, this concert doesn't last long, as the animatronics break soon after, and then they reset to default. Have you noticed that Chica doesn't have the cupcake with her? Well, if you look inside the lockers of the pizzeria as a survivor, you might find a bloody surprise. What is interesting about this Easter egg is that it works in a very similar way to how Jonesy the cat can jumpscare you in the Nostromo map. And considering how Scott Cawthon is a massive fan of the Alien license, he might have asked for this himself. If you ever played or watched Five Nights at Freddy's, you know how absolutely iconic Phone Guy is for the series. Well, Phone Guy is referenced in this DLC, as you can find the office phone as part of the animatronics add-on set. But did you know that if you go to the entrance of the pizzeria and stay near this phone, you can sometimes hear it ringing? Is that Phone Guy trying to get in contact with the survivors, or is it another trick from the entity? And talking about sounds inside the pizzeria, did you know that if you go inside the bathrooms, this stall in the corner that is blocked will sometimes have a child laughing inside it? Considering the horrible state of this stall, this is not a fun fact, it is a really creepy one. If I had a coin for each time a license map had someone in a bathroom stall, I would have 2 coins, as the Silent Hill map also has a woman crying inside the bathrooms. We found the cupcake already, we found Phone Guy, and we also found a child. But what about Foxy the pirate? Well, this iconic character seems to be completely missing from the map, as the Pirate Cove location has what looks like a cage that is completely blocked. No Foxy replacement heads can be found in the spare parts section either, and the only remnants we have of Foxy are the plushies, as well as a poster where he appears with the gang. Considering how important and iconic Foxy is, I hope that at least they add his humming anytime you are near Pirate Cove as a reference to him. And while searching for Foxy, did you notice that something feels off in here? It's like somebody is looking at me. Well, if you take a look at the spare heads of the animatronics, you can find out that they are indeed tracking your location. When you move, their eyes will also move to look at you, and they will make a sound. This is an insanely creepy detail that works no matter if you are the killer or the survivor. Inside this same room, we can also find an endoskeleton that seems to have been tampered by William Afton, and this is the Blendoskeleton, the same one that assists Springtrap when you perform the Memento Mori on the survivors. This is a unique animatronic made for Dead by Daylight, and it looks like the entity allowed Springtrap to continue his robotic experiments inside the realm, and the way this endoskeleton works is very similar to how the animatronics kill the night guards in the FNAF movie, so this could be a reference to the movies. But the Blendoskeleton is not the only endo inside the pizzeria, because if you go to the employees only section of the map as a survivor, you will find a surprise. An endoskeleton will pop out of the vents in order to attack you, but they will lose power and be stuck on top. The coolest part is that this endoskeleton does not attack the killer, so it might be another creation of Afton that assists him in scaring the survivors. The fans of the FNAF novels will absolutely love this fun fact, as we are now talking about the iconic ball pit that is featured in the books and the game by the same name, Into the Pit. If you take a look inside of it, you can see a Freddy mask as well as a body part sticking out. So it seems like Afton killed someone inside the realm of the entity. The coolest part about this pit, in my opinion, is the fact that sometimes the basement will spawn here, and the basement is the most important part of a map in the canon of DBD, as this is the closest part to the entity and where the rest of the map will be recreated from. This means, in Dead by Daylight, you can sometimes actually go into the pit. Something really cool about the pizzeria map in Dead by Daylight is that it is a recreation based on the movie as well as the original location from Five Nights at Freddy's first game. This means that, for the first time ever, we are actually able to see the kitchen from the original game, which was not possible as the camera was broken. And something really creepy about it is that it seems to be haunted, as sometimes when you are inside, the ovens will start to act quirky. This is not the only canon thing that we get to see for the first time thanks to Dead by Daylight, as for the first time ever, William Afton has an anatomically correct appearance. For those of you that don't know about FNAF, Scott Cawthon, the creator, is really good at making animatronic designs, but very bad at making humans. Since Springtrap is an animatronic with William Afton inside of it, this meant that a human needed to be modeled inside. But as you can see from the original FNAF 3, Afton looked horrible. Let me not even mention the design of Scraptrap from Pizzeria Simulator. Well, thanks to Dead by Daylight, Springtrap got a complete redesign that is much more realistic, and now you can see the true horrible side of a human trapped inside a Springlock suit. This is huge for FNAF fans, because this is the first ever appearance of William Afton in such a horrific state. However, the DBD design lacks some details from the original Springtrap model. In specific, it lacks the button on top of his chest, as well as the darker belly part. The mandible is also different, with the one in DBD completely lacking the Springlock metallic bits. Since Scott approved of this design, there must be a reason why they are lacking. I am also really excited to see how Afton looks inside the other suits that we will get with the release of the DLC, like Clown Springtrap and Toxic Springtrap. These cosmetics are taken from the mobile game called FNAF AR, and in this game, there are another two designs for Springtrap that we might get in the future. Flaming Springtrap, which shows him in a burned and melted state, and Curse, which is a design inspired in Aztec culture. Hopefully we get them in the future. Additionally, we are also getting Matthew Lillard, the Yellow Rabbit from the FNAF movie, completely voiced by him with potentially a new Mori animation, as well as another legendary cosmetic, which is Glitchtrap, taken from the VR game Help Wanted. But these are not the only designs that exist of William Afton. As mentioned previously, Pizzeria Simulator, also known as FNAF 6, has Scraptrap, a different design for him in a much more mangled state. However, this design is considered as one of the worst ones in FNAF history, and he is also missing an arm, which he uses in-game to throw the axe. Another potential design is Burntrap from Security Breach, with a much more mangled design, purple eyes, and a different head. However, Burntrap might not even be William Afton, and instead, it's the Mimic, which is a completely different character, so that might be the reason we didn't get him. Finally, the only other design we could get is the Yellow Rabbit from the novels, but he would look like the Yellow Rabbit movie skin, only with the mask and a creepier mouth, so maybe they want to make it due to how close it looks to the movie one. Now, I mentioned Glitchtrap as the legendary skin for Springtrap, and the reason this skin is legendary is really curious. Usually, legendary cosmetics are reserved for characters that are different from the original one. Glitchtrap is also seen with very fluid, human-like movements instead of the robotic movements that the Springlock animatronics have, which could be the reason as to why this skin will be legendary. But what is most interesting is that to this day, it is still not fully confirmed if Glitchtrap is actually William Afton. In the VR games, we never hear him speaking, and he is actually a virus that infected the Help Wanted games in order to manipulate Vanessa into becoming Vanny for the Security Breach games. This virus could be a manifestation of William Afton's soul, or it could be the Mimic, the same animatronic behind Burntrap. So this means that there is a chance that this skin is not actually William Afton, but instead the Mimic trying to be Afton. This would mean that the entity actually recreated a completely digital being and gave it flesh. Once this skin comes live, we will know if it keeps the voice lines of Afton or if it becomes mute like in the VR games, keeping the identity of Glitchtrap a mystery. But let's go back to William Afton, the Springtrap from FNAF 3. He is voiced by PJ Haywood, the voice actor that gave him his iconic lines from Pizzeria Simulator and the rest of games. And yes, for those of you asking, he does say it.
I always come back.
Something really cool about Springtrap is that many of his voice lines are taken from FNAF AR, where he mocks the player anytime you die. Some of the voice lines will also be reused by the animatronics in Ultimate Custom Night. Springtrap has two lines that are also said by Nightmare.
I am here to claim what is left of you.
I am here to claim what is left of you.
You will not be spared. You will not be saved.
You will not be spared. You will not be saved.
Another line is taken from Rockstar Foxy anytime he kills you.
Play with fire and you'll get burned.
Yarg, you play with fire and sometimes you get burned.
But by far the coolest and the coldest line of Springtrap is one that I will explain a bit of context for those of you not familiar with the lore of the games. In FNAF 6, Pizzeria Simulator, the entire point of the game is that Henry, an old friend of William and co-founder of the Fazbear Enterprises, built a pizzeria designed as a maze to keep the animatronics inside, like Springtrap, in order to burn them and release their soul to heaven, except for Afton, who is so evil that Henry said this to him.
Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, friend.
Well, in Dead by Daylight, Springtrap has escaped this hell, and instead, he has an infinite amount of survivors that he can scare and experiment with. This is heaven for him, and so, one of the voice lines directly mocks Henry, as he says,
The darkest pit of hell is open for business.
The voice lines just show how much Springtrap is enjoying his stay inside the realm of the entity, and how much the entity actually loves him. It didn't need to do any convincing, it just opened the doors and Springtrap gladly joined in. It's also funny how Ghostface is another killer that is favored by the entity, and Matthew Lillard plays Springtrap in the movie, so in a way this image represents the most liked characters by the entity. The voice lines are not the only thing that are references to the game, as a lot of his animations are also that. For example, Springtrap is the only killer as of now that has two animations when you select him in the menu. One of the animations, where he walks from one side to the other, is a reference to how Springtrap can walk in the FNAF 3 games when he is near the office. The other intro is also taken from the same game, and it's a reference to how he can peek from the left when he is about to attack you. Funnily enough, in DVD, because of the way the icons are located, the animations are placed in the reverse of how they are in the original game. Another really cool animation happens in Idol with Springtrap in the lobby. Sometimes, he will do this. This is a reference to a very rare secret screen that can happen if you die in FNAF 3. This was the first time that William was seen inside the suit, so to see it here is absolutely amazing with the new design. Finally, a cool animation that I can show you but not fully yet is the Yellow Rabbit entrance animation when you select him. This is a direct reference to how he first appeared in the FNAF movie, where he is hunched over because of how big the suit is. Now, as you can see, Springtrap is very faithful to the source material. However, something interesting is the power. Many FNAF fans have said that the Fire Axe power makes no sense for this character, as canonically, he has never used an axe before. In fact, the first time the Fire Axe appeared in something FNAF related is Springtrap's power in Pillar Chase, a Roblox game mode. However, Afton using a Fire Axe was always something that the fans associated with him. Even back in the days with the Springtrap concept video, he was using a Fire Axe instead of a knife. This is because William Afton used a Fire Axe in the FNAF music video made by The Living Stone called Die in a Fire, where William uses a Fire Axe in order to break the animatronics. Considering how another of the Living Stone's iconic FNAF songs was used officially in the movie, and considering how Scott Cawthon approved of this design, it means that Scott wanted this fan feature to actually be canon to the Springtrap lore. Also, for those of you that didn't know, the name of the power, Fazbear's Fright, is a fun twist on Fazbear's Frights, the establishment from FNAF 3 where Springtrap escapes from. And as the final fun fact for this character, let's talk about the music, one of the most interesting parts of any chapter release. First, let's talk about his chase music, which is an absolute banger. Layer 3 and 4 of this chase theme are really cool in my opinion, and it sounds metallic, robotic, industrial, with saw noises in the back. This chase theme could be inspired on the FNAF 3 original menu theme, which was also industrial, in order to represent William Afton, a man fused with a machine. The lobby music, on the other hand, is very unique. A lot of us, including myself, thought that it sounded weird when we first heard it in the anniversary livestream extremely loud. However, after hearing it clearly, I can say that this is a very fitting lobby theme for Springtrap. At first, it starts with the Dies Irae leitmotif like all the rest of DBD themes, but in a creepy and industrial way, just like the music from past FNAF games. Then, it starts to play some arcade-style music that plays very fast, like what a kid would hear in the arcade section of the pizzeria, representing the child victims of Springtrap and how distorted his mind is. And finally, we get a section that has carousel music, once again distorted to show how warped and evil William Afton is. And I think this is the coolest part, as this fast-paced carousel music could be a reference to the carousel theme that sometimes appears in the original FNAF game, which some of you will recognize. This combination of different music makes this lobby theme a very fitting theme for Springtrap, and I am glad to say that the composer has done a really good job so far. Let me know which fun fact was your favorite, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe in order to see more fun facts once the cosmetics release. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a nice day!